limit or infringe on the civic rights of the citizens of the United States of America, anchored in the constitutional charters of the United States. The Constitution and Bill of Rights judge any president who acts in this way to be acting illegally, for he is acting in opposition to the very body of laws from which he derives his own authority. Presidential authority has no authority whatsoever when it authorizes flagrant violation of the Constitution from which that president derives authority in the first place. As the preamble, Constitution and Bill of Rights makes clear, the people of United States of America are endowed originally and inherently with all necessary or unalienable rights for life, liberty and happiness, and their government exists simply or chiefly for the purpose of protecting and enforcing these rights. The government cannot grant or deny its citizens rights, which exist inalienably in the people themselves.
That being said, and that being very true, they do it anyways. They do it anyways because they know that either the Americans aren't paying attention or we simply just don't have the money to stop them. And that's what it boils down to. We need the money to stop them. Because all the Congress and the Senate and the presidents and before the presidents, they're all covering each other's back. It's kind of like that cop thing. And this thing about letting previous presidents off the hook because they were presidents. And who cares if they kill millions of people, have, committed treason and whatnot. We're not going to do anything about it. We're just going to talk about it. But we're not going to do anything about it. Just like the fart in office now. He's the best liar. He's the best actor and the best liar so far. Very good actor. Missed his calling. Disappointing. Well, I better move along. We're not even at 100 pages yet.
89. No president, no government has the authority to deny the citizens of the United States any of their constitutional rights. Articles X and X state, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. These articles underline that the people of the United States are acknowledged to have specific, certain, unalienable, reserved, and retained rights, and that these rights are divinely conferred and naturally inherent and, therefore, cannot be restricted, limited or infringed upon by any government, in any way, but must be respected, protected and enforced by all governments, and that governments exist for the chief purpose of defending and enforcing these rights. The most basic, essential and obvious right is the right of American people to choose what happens to their own bodies and which treatments or vaccinations to accept and under what conditions, that is to say, the right to life, because the people of the United States of America have the right to decide what vaccination is injected into their bodies as part of their right to life and liberty. They can never be legally forced to accept an injection of an unproven substance under threat of a drastic punishment such as being shot as a criminal suspect, and without any recourse to compensation or any right to legal redress. It follows from the above that any government personnel, police, military, doctors or nurses who are participating in such a forced mass vaccination program are acting illegally and unconstitutionally and without exception, in every single case, with every single vaccination, violating the most fundamental and inalienable rights of the people of the United States. The Declaration of Independence states that the right of the American people to life is unalienable, creating a rock-like legal basis for the right to refuse any vaccination. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. The rights of Americans are expanded on under the 5 Articles of the Declaration of Rights, July 4, 1776. First, all men are created equal. Second, all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Women
Third,
too.
governments are instituted among men to secure these unalienable rights. Fourth, governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Fifth, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
Hear that? The right to abolish it. We've gone way beyond that point. Way beyond that point, but everybody's afraid. I don't blame them too. It's, I'd be afraid too unless I had a plan. But it is past time. I mean, we cannot let this continue. It has to be stopped. We have to get them. We have to get the dogs in line and retrain them. They work for us. They are not our parents. They are not our masters. They are not our God. They are our dogs that must sit, stand, and obey when we say so. And it's time for us to speak up, march up by the millions, and get our Constitution back in order to be paid attention to and followed. And we got to get those people in Congress and the Senate, the Supreme Court arrested, and the other judges arrested. This is where our military has constantly failed us. They know that these people are committing treason, and they did jack shit about it. And maybe that's because Obama put them under the UN. I really don't know. That was also treasonous as well. I think they're still under the direction of the UN. That's probably why Trump doesn't leave the UN or NATO. Because if he left NATO, they would go after Israel because 77 years of convictions would warrant it. And 60, 70 years of ICC, the UN, and the European community telling Israel to get the hell out of the Golden Heights, get the hell out of Gaza. But because the U.S. constantly vetoes and threatens everyone, they keep getting away with genocide. And that has to stop too. I mean, it's just simply wrong. And if you can't see that, you're not going to heaven. That's as simple as that.
90. The Declaration states that there are natural and divine rights that human beings are endowed with, and that these exist before any human laws, charters, or constitutions were ever written. These rights antedate, and therefore takes precedence over state and national laws and constitutions, which, to be valid, must be based on the fundamental principles of inherent human and natural rights which are naturally and divinely and equally conferred upon all humankind. The official title of this document is the Unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America, which shows that it is the official statement or code of the foundation governing principles of the new nation issued by its first Congress and has, therefore, the full effect of a constitution, pre-constitution, or Bill of Rights. It follows that no government, no president, in spite of any self-proclaimed state emergency, a state of emergency, was also the pretext that the Nazis and Nazi judges used to destroy the German Constitution, or any war on terrorism or disease can ever introduce regulations or laws that override these basic rights to life, for they are anchored in foundation of the country itself, in the Constitution and its democratic code. The implementation of emergency health powers and martial law will mean the destruction of the Constitution and is therefore always, without exception, illegal and unconstitutional. The courts of the United States have handed down clear judgments against forced vaccinations. In 2004, U.S. District Court Judge Emmett G. Sullivan issued a temporary injunction, saying the Pentagon's compulsory vaccination of military personnel against anthrax was illegal, until proven otherwise by the Food and Drug Administration. U.S. District Court Judge Emmett G. Sullivan in his 34-page decision agreed with the contention of unidentified active duty National Guard and civilian defense employees that anthrax vaccine absorbed was an unlicensed, investigative drug and being used for an unapproved purpose. So concerned was Congress about the impact of vaccines that it passed a law amid fears that the use of such drugs may have led to unexplained illnesses among veterans of the 1991 Persian Gulf War, which have come to be known as Gulf War Syndrome. The judgments against vaccinations go back 4 decades. In 1894, Judge Bartlett, of the New York Supreme Court, in the case of Walters, decided that, to vaccinate a person against his will, without legal authority so to do, would be an assault. So, to force someone to take a vaccine against their will is itself an assault or a criminal offense under this interpretation. If the person who is forced to take the vaccine then dies, it flows that not an assault but a murder has been committed, and when a murder has been committed, the U.S. justice system requires the perpetrators to be brought to justice even if they are government officials or government personnel. Judge Gaynor, also of the New York Supreme Court and also in the same year, 1894, in the case of Smith against Health Commissioner Emory of Brooklyn, issued a ruling later confirmed by the New York Court of Appeals. If the Commissioner of Health had the power to imprison an individual for refusing to submit to vaccination, I see no reason why he should not also imprison one for refusing to swallow a dose. But the legislature has conferred no such power upon him, if, indeed, it.
Are we getting the whole thing? We sure did. Yeah, at least there's precedents there. You know, if we Americans raise some money and hire some great attorneys, get before